Welcome, everyone. Learning to move gracefully through transition is integral to our practice, both on and off the mat, and yet the word gracefully needs a little bit of a redefinition. Instead of meaning that things are perfect, or that things are uninterrupted, or that things are flawless, or that things have a particular outcome, whether it's perceived or experienced or seen, that instead graceful can connote a particular type of attention. Like it was a graceful transition because of the way in which our minds were oriented towards it, or in the way in which we approached it. And that's how we'll practice together. So as you're ready, you can take a comfortable seat. You can also choose to start lying down if you'd prefer, supported by props or simply against the ground. And as you settle yourself in space, let this be a graceful transition from life to practice. And of course, there's a bit of a seamless flow between the two. But when we come to the mat or when we come to the cushion, when we set aside time from life that's protected to practice, there is a different kind of awareness. There is a more specific and more concentrated kind of awareness because we are taking the space from life and putting up a little bit of a barrier, a little bit more of a boundary. So as you encounter that in your own way, sense that there can be a graceful transition, not because there are no more worries in your life, not because there are no more distractions in your space, but because you've committed to a particular type of attention, because you've committed to a particular type of action with which to start your practice. So first, let the hands rest. Let the eyes either soften or close, so you are deliberately turning away from external distraction. And as you turn your attention to your breath, start to make the inhale and the exhale more even to each other and also smoother within themselves. So you can think of the inhale and the exhale individually, almost like turning a light on a dimmer switch, or like spreading peanut butter across bread. That there's an evenness from the very beginning to the very end, and it's that kind of evenness that we're practicing. And as the breath starts to take up more space in the body, so too let the breath take up more space in the mind. So if you notice that the mind is wandering elsewhere, you can make a graceful transition back to the breath. So as we start to let go of expectations of how things look or how things feel, or how things seem or could be perceived, there's a gigantic opportunity to really practice. So you can expect that in today's practice, you'll have an opportunity to wiggle and wobble and maybe even fall over, but that it was never the point to be stuck, to stick the landing, but rather to practice steadiness, which means that we have to venture into instability. So in this moment, if you find that the mind is elsewhere, the point of your practice is not for your mind to already be here, but to practice calling it back. So stay with this very subtle pranayama in your mind. If you notice that you're frustrated with the mind or the body or the breath, perhaps rather than attempting to perfect your practice in order to relieve the frustration, perhaps the goal is to stay so close to your practice that you can allow the frustration to take a back seat and maybe even disappear. Keeping your attention on your breath, take your hands and bring them to your rib cage. If you need a visual, you can of course look at me. Otherwise, you can keep your eyes closed and your attention inward. You can have the fingers wrapping around the front of the ribs and the thumb to the back. It really doesn't matter so long as you have this kind of tangible, tactile sensation around the ribs. And take a long breath in and expand through the fronts of your ribs, the sides of the ribs, the back of the ribs, and you can feel that spilling into your fingertips, into your palm, into your thumbs. And then let the breath out the same way. So keep the chest pretty quiet and let the activity that's happening underneath your hands spill all the way down into your belly. Let's take a couple more breaths like that, just making the breath a little bit more three-dimensional. Inhale through the fullness of your hand, through the full span of your ribs, and let it go the same way. We'll do one more like that together. Take a long breath in, move it evenly into your palms, fingers, thumbs. And the same as you let it go. When you're ready, draw your hands in prayer at the center of the chest and take just a few subtler breaths like that, so that as you're breathing through practice, you can sense that the breath is moving more fully dimensionally through the ribs, all the way down into the belly and the low back. And if we prioritize this breath, there might be less gripping and grasping, both in the body and in the mind. Take a breath in together to start. And let it go. When you're ready, bow your head to your heart. And slowly blink your eyes open. Come to lie down on your back if you're not there already. If you started your practice lying down, you're all set. We'll engage in a little bit of core work so that we can connect to something that's in the center. So this sense of moving through transition gracefully, the sense of being able to bring our full attention to transition, wherein the word grace doesn't mean perfection, but rather alignment, rather connection, rather awareness. And that starts from something that's central. And in our bodies, of course, that's the core. But in the mind, or maybe even in our sense of ourselves that includes a spirit, how much deeper can we make a connection so it doesn't come from the periphery, whether that's literal or metaphorical. And then when you're ready, take your hands behind your head. And first, just bend your knees and put your feet on the floor and establish this feeling of lengthening through your low spine. For many people who have lower back sensitivities of all varieties, doing core work can be really contentious. So start just by lifting your low back up off the ground. It's like a little bit of a cow pose in the low spine. And then exhale, push your low back down. And you can certainly do core work with your low back pushed down and imprinted like this, but you don't have to. You can split the difference and be somewhere in between. So you're not in a back bend, but you're also not in a round. And if it really helps you to keep your spine a little bit more pressed into the mat, you certainly can. So why are we belaboring all these points and moving so slowly? A lot of the time, especially when we move quickly, we're moving from a place of pattern. We're just doing the same old thing the same old way. We don't want to do the same old thing the same old way, so we're taking our time to meet everything as it's afresh right now. Just take a long breath in. And then exhale, curl the head, neck, and shoulders up off the ground. We'll start super simple. Because a lot of the time we realize, our neck is doing the core work, or our legs are doing the core work, or our upper back is doing the core work. And then inhale, slowly lower all the way back down. Or that we're holding our breath. So let's take these first few to be really deliberate. Take a long breath in. And exhale, curl the head, neck, and shoulders up off the ground. And just sense that the low belly can pull down. We don't really care what the flesh is doing. It's really more a sense that the abdominal muscles are hugging together rather than feeling like they're being pushed apart. Inhale, slowly lower down. Last one like this. Exhale, lift your head, neck, and shoulders up away from the ground. Now there's a chance to add on. So inhale, slowly lower down. Lift the left leg up either towards the sky or towards a table shape. Take a long breath in to either keep your leg in table or to reach your left leg away from you. And then exhale, lift your head, neck, and shoulders either with your leg in table or with your leg pointed towards the sky. Inhale, slowly lower the left leg. If your left knee is bent, you can kind of dip the left toes to touch the floor or keep them steady. Exhale, lift your head, neck, and shoulders up away from the ground. Last time like this, inhale, slowly lower the left leg or keep your leg where it is. Exhale, lift the head, neck, and shoulders up away from the ground. So now there's one more option to take things up a notch. Lay your head, neck, and shoulders down onto the ground. You might have both knees bent. You might have your left leg pointing skyward. You might have your right foot still on the ground. Take a long breath in, and this time, keep your right leg where it is and reach your left leg towards the front of your space to hover away from the floor, or keep everything lifted or keep everything on the ground. Exhale, lift your left leg up. Inhale, slowly reach your left leg down and lower the head, neck, and shoulders. All the other options are still on the table. Exhale, lift your left leg up. One more time. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Now there's the chance to add on. You can stay with what you've been doing. You can put both feet back on the floor, or inhale, lower your left leg and kick the right leg skywards. Exhale, pull the left leg up. Option to reach your right leg forward. So inhale, lower the left leg, lift the right, or stay with what you've been doing. Exhale, kick the left leg skywards, lift your head, neck, and shoulders, and reach the right leg away from the ground hovering away from the floor. One more time. Inhale, lower, and exhale, lift.
Inhale, bring both knees to table. Put your feet down onto the ground. Rest your head, neck, and shoulders. Let your arms rest down beside you. And just take a couple breaths because we have to do the other side. So all these transitions are like little thresholds, and we can walk over them either by way of patterning or by way of being unconscious or just kind of brambling through, or we can bring our kind awareness to it. We can bring our best attention to it. And sometimes the outcome looks exactly the same. Sometimes you are flopping all over the place, but that's not what we care about. We care about the quality of attention that we're constantly honing, especially in the face of so much stimulation and so much distraction that's constantly around us and within us. When you're ready, head, neck, and shoulders supported by the basket weave of your hands against your head. You could switch the cross of your fingers, whatever you do naturally. Take the other one. Take a long breath in. Exhale, lift the head, neck, and shoulders up. And this is always where you can stay the whole time. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Just one more after this. Inhale, lower. And exhale, lift. Now inhale, lower. Option to lift your right leg up to table or kick your right leg up to the sky. Take a long breath in, reach your right leg so it hovers away from the floor, or keep your leg where it is. Exhale, lift the head, neck, and shoulders up and the leg. Inhale, lower and hover. Exhale, lift. One more, inhale, lower. And exhale, lift. Inhale, lower your head, neck, and shoulders down. Option to keep your right leg lifted. Option to also lift your left leg up towards the table. Keep the left knee bent for now. Inhale, lower the right leg down. Keep your head, neck, and shoulders down. Exhale, lift the head, neck, and shoulders on the right leg. So the left leg's just hovering for now. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. And exhale, lift. Now inhale, lower the right leg down. Option to kick the left leg up towards the sky. And then exhale, lift so that you reach the right leg up and switch so that the left leg is hovering away from the ground. Inhale, lower, reach the right leg down, lower the head, neck, and shoulders. Option to kick the left leg up. Exhale, lift so that you reach the left leg forward and the right leg up towards the sky. One more time. Inhale, lower. And exhale, lift. Inhale, bring both legs to table. Lower the head, neck, and shoulders. Lower your feet down to the ground. And just let the thigh bones wave from side to side just to release any buildup that occurred in the hip flexors. Maybe any buildup that occurred in the lower back. And then when you're ready, take your time. We'll meet in a table shape. So you can take a couple rocks and rolls. You can choose to move yourself over to the side and come up to sit. And then once you're in table, just a couple rounds of cat and cow just to kind of neutralize the spine, but that's not where we'll stay. Inhale, open up across the chest. Exhale, round the spine. Twice more, and imagine your own hands are on your ribs. Inhale, come forward with the chest. Just let there be a little bit more dimension in your breath. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, open up across the chest. And even though your spine is kind of uneven, you're still trying to breathe just as much into the back body as the front body. Exhale, round. And here, just as much the front body as the back body. Inhale, come to neutral. And reach your left arm up towards the sky so that you twist the spine. Keep the left hip heavy. And exhale,
thread the left shoulder underneath the right, but just tap it down. We'll do that twice more. Inhale, reach the left arm wide up and open. Exhale, tap the left shoulder down. One more time, inhale, reach up. And exhale, tap the left shoulder down, and this time stay. And you've got a few different options for thread the needle. You can either keep your right hand where it is and let that give you a little bit of traction for the spine. You can reach the right arm forward so that you have a little bit more length in the right side body. Or you can grab your left wrist and give it a little tug with your right hand. All these options are on the table. If your neck feels crunched, you can always put a block underneath your left ear. Last option is to lengthen your right leg back behind you so that the ball of your right foot is on the floor. And then the option is to lift your right leg. So we're deliberately making these situations of imbalance. And maybe frustration will arise, maybe annoyance will arise, maybe disappointment or self-judgment will arise, but these are all things that happen in life, and oftentimes when we get to those kind of emotional transitions or transitions in life that make those emotions arise, we can't quite bring our practice there. So we can't really expect this little rectangle to be our most peaceful respite from the rest of life because we miss out on the opportunity to take these lessons off the mat. Last little option, pull your right heel towards your right sit bone. Nothing more to do here. You can just let this be a little precursor for something that's to come. And then unfurl your right foot, bring it back down to the mat. Lower your right knee, push into your right hand. Inhale, reach the left arm up, unwind. And exhale, plant your left hand down. So just one round. Inhale, reach the chest forward, cow pose. Exhale, round the spine into cat. Inhale, come to neutral. Reach your right arm up. So you take a big breath across your wingspan. Exhale, tap your right shoulder down, but not to stay. We'll do it twice more. Inhale, reach the right arm up and open. Exhale, tap the right shoulder down. Inhale, reach up and open. And exhale, tap. This time, stay. You can put a block underneath your right ear if you feel like your neck feels crunched. Option to keep your right hand where it is, that provides traction. Option to reach your right arm forward, that provides length. Option to grab a hold of your right wrist with your left hand, just to provide a little bit of a gentle space-making tug across the right shoulder. And then this could be where you stay, or you could tuck your left toes and lengthen your left leg back behind you. Just be sure that there's still that same sense of the breath moving three-dimensionally through the rib cage. If that's not possible, then you need to spend more time at a previous step. And usually that means putting more limbs against the ground. And then the last option is to lift the left leg up away from the ground. And perhaps you curl the left heel in towards the left sit bone. One more long breath in. Exhale, unfurl, put the left foot back down, left knee back down, push into the left hand, reach the right arm up, take a big breath across your wingspan. Then exhale, put your right hand down beside your left, just one round. Inhale, open up across your chest, cow pose. And exhale, round the spine for cat. Inhale, come to neutral. Put your forearms down against the ground and walk your knees back in space so you're in a supported forearm plank. And make the point of this not coming up into a forearm plank. You don't ever have to lift your knees, but you can if you want to. There will be other opportunities for this. But really focus on getting the body into a stable, solid shape. So oftentimes what we'll do is we'll lift the hips up and come into a little back bend. Oftentimes what we'll do is sag the hips and work on compression. So you're really using the awareness that you developed in the core work to allow for connection across the belly, for lengthen the spine, for a kind of reach of the tailbone towards the heels and the crown towards the front of your space. And an option to stay here, or you can gently, and this all kind of happens at the same time, swivel your left hand towards the right and stack your right knee on top of the left and reach the right arm up. So it's like a little supported side plank. And then the option could be to lift your right leg up with the knee bent or the leg straight. Option to reach the right arm alongside the ear. Everything's on the table. So you take the transitions that test the stability you have. If you're still creating stability, you stay still. And then bring your knees back together, bring your right forearm back down, come back to the forearm plank. If you need a moment, you can come down into a Sphinx pose and pause there. It's up to you. And then slowly swivel, right forearm over towards the left, stack the left knee on top of the right. You can always stay where you were. Option to reach the left arm up, option to reach the left leg up, option to kick the left leg long. Option to reach the left arm alongside the ear. One more long breath in. Exhale, knees together, knees down, forearms down. One more breath at center. And then exhale, come on down into Sphinx pose and just let the chest open. If you prefer a cobra, you can put the chest down and bring your hands back beside your rib cage. And then exhale, press back into child's pose. Just take a couple breaths in child's pose to let the lower back lengthen, to let the breath come back into its full dimension. There's a lot of information in what the breath is doing. So can we bring the breath with us somewhere? And if not, why? And then when you're ready, you can make your way into downward facing. Make sure that both of your blocks are up at the top of the mat. And in down dog, you can move how you'd like to. You can pedal the legs, you can shift the hips. You could take a couple passes into plank and back or a few rounds of cat and cow. Bring the breath with you. Slow, steady, smooth breaths. And then when you're ready, step your left foot forward for low lunge. Keep your right hand down where it is or put it on a block and reach the left arm up just for a simple twist. We won't be here for too long, but if you would like to embellish in any way, shape, or form, you can either reach your left arm alongside your ear towards the front of the space. You can choose to take your right elbow over your left thigh, make the twist a little tighter. It really all depends on our anatomy. The architecture of the body, where it meets the circumstances of life and what that's like for you. Just one more long breath in to lengthen the spine forward. One more long breath out to roll the ribs open. Slowly unwind. This is where the blocks become extra helpful, one underneath each hand. And you can stay like this. The purpose is to stretch the hip flexors. So if you need to, you can move your right knee further back behind the line of your pelvis, provided your body's okay with that. And then the next option is to pull your right heel towards your right sit bone. And I'll recommend for this particular practice to grab it with your left hand if you are grabbing it. But if it's a kind of tricky place to be, if it feels really tight, then however you can get it, or just not getting it. And experiment with feeling the sensation and kind of treading lightly into the waters of the quadriceps and the hip flexors without needing it to look a certain way. So bring your attention a little bit more fully inside and feel what the quadriceps and the hip flexors, all those muscles on the front of the thigh and hip, feel what they're asking for. And it might morph your shape into something that doesn't quite look like what you thought it would. And then when you're ready, slowly unwind and just back your hips up to let the right leg release. Just like the tiniest little hint of a hamstring stretch in the front leg. We won't spend a ton of time in a half split, but you can let it be one just in transition. Then bend into your left knee, turn the blocks up tall and come into a supported warrior three. And you might even drag your left foot back against the ground so that you can step down pretty much right underneath your hip so that you've got a tripod of the blocks and your foot. Get the right leg really active and alive. This is also a really nice way to release the feeling of the hip flexors and the quadriceps. Just a little bit of gentle connection. One more long breath in. And then exhale. We're going through this transition really consciously. Step your right foot back. Move the blocks off to the side. Plant your hands down. Step to plank pose. So being conscious and being graceful does not mean being cute. It doesn't have to be cute. We're not performing plank pose for somebody. Option to put your knees down for this. Lower the left forearm down. Lower the right forearm down. Forearm plank. You might put the knees down. Just let the spine lengthen. The belly connect. The breath steady. One more long breath in. And exhale, slowly lower the pelvis, come into Sphinx pose, open up across the chest. Let the breath come rushing back in a little bit more freely. And then push into a forearm table. So draw the elbows so that they're right underneath your shoulders and your knees so that they're right underneath your hips. And you can always stay like this. The next option, if you feel like you need more security and stability in your shoulders, is to interlace your hands. And the next option is to lift your hips into dolphin pose. Bend your knees so that you can lift your hips up and back, and then push the floor away with your forearms. So it's almost like you're trying to put your sit bones into the place where the wall and ceiling meet behind you, like you're wedging yourself in there. Dolphin is a little bit like a wedge. One more long breath in. Long breath out, option to lift the left leg up and back. And that's it for now. One more long breath in. Just option to curl your left heel towards your left sit bone. It tells your body something about the future or potential future. Then unfurl the left leg, step the left foot down, lower your knees down and take a child's pose. So all of these shapes are building on each other, not because there's somewhere we need to get to, but because we're learning to become patient in a process and bring a kind of quality of attention to everything that we do, such that we can move from a more central place, a more connected place, so that we can traverse whatever terrain there is out there in the vast landscape of life with a little bit more steadiness. You know, like if you were trail running and you tripped over a root, It's not like, oh, actually I should have pulled up every tree before I went trail running. It's more like, can you recover? And that's what we're asking ourselves in our practice over and over. Can I just get better at recovering? Can I get better at apologizing? Can I get better at bringing my next breath to the forefront of my mind in meditation if my mind wanders away? So when you're ready, there's one more little thing we're doing before we go over to the other side. Option 2, come back into dolphin just as we did, or take your right hand and bring it down to the ground. So it's kind of like it was for the thread the needle, and it's kind of like it is for cobra, and then come up into dolphin pose. And then option to stay like this or to lift the left leg up and back, and that could be where you stay, or you could choose to pull your left heel towards your left sit bone. And again, we're just giving our body a little idea about something. Stay really connected with the breath and with the mind. So if you find that your mind is somewhere else, or that you're turning towards frustration or annoyance or expectation, just really simply let that take a back seat and come back to your breathing. One more long inhale. Exhale, unfurl, step down, knees down. Option for a short child's pose or to sit on your heels. Just take a couple breaths. So the grace of it is meeting everything with presence. Not perfection. And when you're ready, come into downward facing dog. We'll do that on the other side. Step your right foot forward, land your left knee down. This is the quick twist, so you can put a block underneath your left hand if you'd like and reach the right arm up. You can also choose to reach your right arm alongside your right ear. That kind of gives your spine trajectory. For me, it feels almost like my right fingertips are coming out of my tailbone. And then the last option is to draw your left elbow across your right thigh and take the twist a little tighter. Now, this is all dependent on anatomy and life circumstances and what you want in the moment. So there's no right way. Inhale, lengthen the spine forward. Exhale, roll the ribs open. One more long inhale. Exhale, slowly unwind, plant your hands onto the blocks. You can move your left knee back a little bit to get the hip flexors and quadriceps a little more generously. You can also choose to pull your left heel in towards your left sit bone and grab with, let's say, your right hand for the purposes of our practice, but again, you could do whatever you want. And just let this be more internal. Like no one's coming in to snap a picture of you doing this to put it on the cover of a magazine. It's maybe a little bit of an outdated thing to say. But can we get out of our head the idea that we're doing these poses so that they can meet some kind of weird invisible standard of what they should look like? And then when you're ready, you can back the hips up. Just let the left quads and hip flexors just contract, and can make it a little teeny tiny half split just for the time being. And we'll take the transition, pull your right foot so that it steps down under your chest. Turn the blocks up tall, come into a supported warrior 3. Lengthen the spine forward. It's your option to curl your left heel towards the left sit bone. Just keep everything reaching away from your center. But the only way that something can successfully reach away from the center is if it's connected into the center. Otherwise, the whole shape disintegrates. One more long breath in. Transition again, unfurl your left leg, step the left foot back, set the blocks off to the side, come into plank. Option to stay like this, option to lower your knees down. Lower the right forearm, then the left forearm. You can take that however you need to. You can always put the knees back down. Just take a couple breaths in forearm plank. Reach everything away from and into the center at the same time. 3-dimensional breath through the ribs. One more long inhale. Exhale, lower the knees down. Draw your forearms back in space. You can always take dolphin with your knees down. You can always take dolphin with the knees lifted. For this side, we'll go right into the variation if you'd like to take it. So you decide. So option to take your left hand, bend your left elbow and move your left hand so that it's basically on the same line of latitude as your right elbow, and then come up into dolphin pose. You might need to walk it back a little bit. It's a chaturanga elbow for your left elbow. It's a 90-degree angle. That just gives you the best kind of architectural outcome because then your forearm is perpendicular to the floor. So you've got a lot of stability there. And then option to lift your right leg up. Option to bend your right heel towards your right sit bone. And then that's just it. One more long breath then. Exhale, right foot down, knees down. Option to sit onto your heels or to take a child's pose. Just a couple steadying breaths. Let the blood kind of regulate itself. And then when you're ready, you'll make your way back into downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward, come up into a high lunge. You can take the twist however you'd like it. You can choose to put your hand down on the ground. It would be the right hand down to the ground or a block and reach the left arm up. You can choose to draw your right elbow across your left thigh and make the twist tighter. I am going to skip the twist this round and stay in a high lunge, and that's also your option. Just letting yourself be steady, steadying the breath. And to be steady, you have to look at where you're wobbling. So just take a look at where it feels like there might be something that's not so steady and bring your attention to it. One more long breath in. Exhale, unwind. You can always do a low lunge instead and then grab the blocks and do like a little table shape where your left knee's on the floor. Option to bring your hands to your hips and tip forward so you're in a bit of a diagonal lunge. If you're doing this from table, your hands will be on the blocks. You'll be on your right knee, your left knee rather, and you'll lift the right leg up. I'll show you after this. And then if you want to, you can start to tip forward into a warrior three. And we'll do it twice just so that you can sense where maybe things are a little off center. So if you're doing it with the blocks, it'll look like this. And you can turn the blocks to whatever height works best for you. And then just step your feet together. Just be on both feet and feel what that feels like. So we're working on transition, which means that we're more interested in process than product. So we don't really care about the warrior three. So take your hands to your hips. And sometimes the way we get into these poses is through compensation or pushing or gripping or compression. So we feel like we're in them, we feel like we've achieved it, but that's not really even the point. So you can start to reach your right leg back. And this is, yes, a different entrance point, but same rules apply. You can start to tip forward and start to lift the right leg up away from the ground. And with the hands on the hips, you can feel if the pelvis is steady. You can maybe even feel if your breath is steady. And you can choose to step your feet beside each other or take a big step back into high lunge again. One more big breath wherever you are. And then exhale, plant your hands down, step into just classical plank this time. One big breath in plank. Exhale, slowly lower. You can pass through Chaturanga Dandasana if you prefer. Inhale, Cobra, open your chest. Exhale, press back, downward facing dog. We'll do that all on the other side. Step your right foot forward. You can come into the lunge twist of your choice. Left hand on right arm up, or a tighter twist, pulling your left elbow across the thigh. Or you can stay in a high lunge, which is what I will do. Just getting yourself steady, getting yourself underneath yourself. So what's it like to offer yourself the steadiness as a gift rather than thinking that you should be somewhere else? If you're in the twist, derotate, come back to high lunge. It's your option to put your hands down onto blocks or to come into the table version. Option to take your hands to your hips and lean forward in a diagonal lunge. Now this would be where you put your hands down onto tall blocks for a supported shape, or you put your knee down. And then really slowly you can lift your leg up away from the ground. Just sense all the little wobbles. This is the side where I have more compromised balance. So I've just embraced that it's going to be what it's going to be. But work to hug the right outer hip in. Work to sense that standing on 2 feet sensation. And then when you're ready, actually do stand on 2 feet and just see what that's like. Now you can take the supported shape. You can choose to do this on the ground and table, or from standing, slowly reach your left leg back in space. It's a different entrance, but the same objective, to stay as steady as possible. Let's release a little bit of tension around the idea that it should be a certain way. Embrace the wobble. And then you can choose to step your feet together and fold and then come back to plank, or you can take a big step back into high lunge with your left foot and reach the arms up. One more big breath wherever you are. Exhale, plant your hands down, step into plank pose. One big breath in plank. Exhale, slowly lower. Option to put your knees down. Inhale, Cobra, open up across your chest. And exhale, press back, downward facing dog. One last little bit before we unwind. So bring your knees down and watch. This will be pretty familiar, but there's one more option. So you can choose to take dolphin again, with or without the knees down. You can also choose to take the dolphin with one elbow bent, reaching the leg up, pulling the heel towards the sit bone. You can see my right heel is lifted, so you actually have to spiral the heel down. That's a lot on the calf. So if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. But the option is to take your hand and connect it to your foot. That might not be in the cards for you for a variety of different reasons, but you can always stay with your heel lifted up away from the ground, with your heel towards your sit bone, with your hand on the ground and your elbow bent. You could do, a hybrid of any of those movements just to test what it's like to take stability away deliberately and to be in graceful transition. So that being said, bring your forearms down to the ground, and it could be here where you transition into a child's pose, and that is also a perfectly viable option. What we're really working on is consciousness through all of these transition points. And then the second option is to take your right hand and move it back so that it's in the kind of same line of latitude as your right elbow, and then come up into dolphin pose. The next option is just to lift your left leg, maybe even to pull the heel to the sit bone. It's really helpful before you lift the leg, if you think you're going to seal the right heel, to do it then, and then reach the left leg up
And then maybe connect your hand and your foot. And now you know what all this business about the heel to the sit bone and the connecting of hand to the foot has been about. When you're ready, you can come on down and rest, and we'll do the other side. But everyone's going to be on a slightly different timeline, so there's no rush. And when you're ready, we'll do the other side, which might be more wobbly. You can always do a regular dolphin or a modified dolphin or child's pose instead. First option is to have both forearms on the floor or bend your left elbow and put your left hand in the same line of latitude as your right elbow. Next option, lift your left leg up and pull the heel to the sit bone. Or rather, maybe it should be the right leg. Right leg up, heel to the sit bone. Right leg up, heel to the sit bone. And you might need to hop your left heel to the ground. This is definitely my more wobbly side. It might be for you. So you're working through transition however it makes the most sense for you. And when you're ready, you can come on down and take a rest either in a child's pose or sitting at the back of your mat. So in the Bhagavadgita, one of the definitions of karma yoga, it talks about being equanimous as a definition of yoga. But not just equanimous, alike in success and in failure. So if we can learn how to be alike in success and in failure on our mat, we can potentially transpose those lessons into the world so that steadiness is not just something we have when things go well or when things meet our expectation. So those transitions, I think that they're just, a gold mine. When you are ready, come to lie down on your back. And be sure all your props are close by just so that you don't have to reach for them for Shavasana or for any other reason. Now, you can take any amount of this that feels right for you. This could be pretty big or this could be pretty subtle, but we'll just start by waving the knees over to the left and then waving the knees over to the right. So the truth is, when we have an expectation for something, oftentimes we kind of clamp down in the body and in the mind, and that can create tension in the jaw, in the head, neck, and shoulders. And unwinding that tension can feel really cathartic, and it can also feel really fragile. So you decide what your neck wants to do, and you decide what your low back wants to do. You could stay like this, or you can roll your knees over to the left and let your head drop to the right, and then do the opposite, knees to the right, head to the left. And you could choose to pick your feet all the way up off the ground, or you can keep your feet grounded. So it's almost like you're a dish towel being wrung out on the ground. And then if you want to catch one side and stay, you can kick your top leg long and put the foot in your hand or grab somewhere along the calf. You could also do a little bit of a quad stretch on the bottom. All of these are optional. You can really just stay in a regular twist or stay with the rocking movement. And then you can do the same to the other side, kind of catching the top leg, maybe catching the bottom foot. So there's a counter pose in the top leg where we really didn't get that much hamstring length, except for in the dolphin, of course, but using the quad stretch just to create a little bit more opening where we've already gotten some. Just like another round or two on each side, whatever you'd like to do. If you want to rinse it through with a couple more fluid motions. And then when you're ready, come back to the center of your mat. You might need to readjust on somewhere else. I'm not sure where. And then option to cross your left ankle over your right thigh and to pull or not to pull the right leg into the chest. And then when you're ready, you can switch. And then when you're ready, slowly unwind. You can reach your legs out in front of you and give them a shake, 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 shake. You can put your legs up to the sky and give them a shake, 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 whatever feels best. If there's any other shape that you'd like to take before Shavasana, certainly take it and let yourself settle down into your rest. The props are there if you'd like to take them. Sometimes having the blocks underneath your hands can let the shoulders settle more. Sometimes having the blocks underneath your thighs can let the low back settle more. Just let it hang in the air that Shavasana can serve as a transition between deliberate practice and how we practice off the mat. That this might be the threshold and when we do come back up to seated and walk back into our lives, we can take these ways of being on the mat off into our lives. Shavasana.
Take a long breath in. And let the breath out. For the next couple cycles of breath, you can imagine your hands are around your ribs like they were in the beginning of practice, except for now, you've got the floor at your back. So just a couple of breaths to feel a little bit more dimension in your breathing through the rib cage. Making this transition as conscious as possible. When you're ready, you can bend your knees and put your feet on the floor. Roll one side and make your way up to a seat. Once you're seated, draw your hands to prayer at the center of the chest. Take a breath to finish together. Take a long inhale. And let it go. Bow your head to your heart. Thank you, everyone, so very much.